Katelyn.
Hi.
Thank you for agreeing to the interview.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah, you've been an English teaching assistant here at our school for about half a year. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. So, as Andy so correctly said, my name is Katelyn, and I've been an English teaching assistant. I am originally from the United States, from a town called Boone, Iowa, as I'm sure many of you know. And I've been in the Czech Republic since July.
And why did you choose the Czech Republic?
I think I chose the Czech Republic because the history of the country was quite interesting to me. I had done a bit of research for an international politics course on the Prague Spring, as well as I did my thesis for history, my history major, on student protests and just young people leading protests, and I saw a little bit about the Jan Palach self-immolation, and so I said, well, this seems like an interesting country, so I applied to come to the Czech Republic.
And regarding the Czech language, do you have any favorite Czech words?
Yes. I really enjoy the word for seven, which is sedum, just because it just rings, like when you say it, you kind of have to ring the doom, sedum. And then also the word for house is quite similar, so doom. That's pretty fun. And then I really like the phrase, mam hlad jaký vlk, hungry like a wolf.
Yeah.
Because there's a song from like a British punk band with those lyrics, and I think it's funny that it's just the direct translation there. So.
Yeah. You mentioned you're from Boone, Iowa. It's quite a small town.
Yep.
What are the differences between the culture of your hometown and Ostrava?
So I grew up in Boone, so I was born in Boone, went to all of my schooling in Boone, went to Boone High School, went to Boone Middle School, went to the elementary schools there. And so I really knew the people in Boone, and people that I didn't even know would know me. So coming here to Ostrava, I don't know many people in Ostrava, and B, like, there's just so many more people, so you don't know, it's impossible to know everyone in your in the city. And then I'd also say, obviously, the public transportation, not just in Ostrava, but everywhere in the Czech Republic, that's a big difference. Because in Iowa, I think there's 2 cities that have public transportation, and they're like crappy bus routes. Whereas in the entire Czech Republic, you can go to the smallest towns on a train or a bus even. And you don't need a car for anything, so.
Was it confusing to you to use the public transportation or to navigate it, get it, how it works?
Yes, it was pretty tough to figure out at first, especially because until like a month ago, the Otis wasn't on Google Maps or Apple Maps, so I had to figure out, which stop on the bus or the tram is the closest to where I need to go, and then figure out how to get there from here. But now I think it's going to be a lot easier for anyone else coming to Ostrava for the first time, because the transportation system is now on Google Maps, which is so useful and so nice, and I'm very jealous that it was not there 6 months ago.
Yeah. And do you have any experiences that you will always remember from the Czech Republic? Any iconic stories or like something like that?
I think I've got a lot of different stories. I think the biggest one that stands out that I think most people know about me is that my bag was lost. So when you move anywhere, and especially when you move to another country, for a shorter, like for a year or so, you spend a really long time thinking about, okay, what am I gonna bring? What am I not gonna bring? And so I went over that for like a month, and then I finally have this bag that I checked on the airplane that like I had spent hours of time like carefully thinking, okay, these are things that I absolutely need for the next year. And then of course that bag got lost. And I didn't see it again for about 6 or 7 months, for about 5 months. And yeah, so I'd say like walking around for the first couple of weeks I was living in Prague and not having like any clothing and just re-washing the entire clothing. That was pretty funny. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest story that I'll remember from my time in the Czech Republic.
What do you miss in Ostrava
Oh,
in comparison to Boone or to United States?
Yeah. I think for the most part, it might be driving. And then there's like certain foods that you can get in the United States that you can't necessarily get here. Like Jif peanut butter is American peanut butter is pretty sugary in comparison to the stuff in Europe. So I miss that. So there's like certain foods. And then just driving a car. Because this is the longest I've gone without driving a car since I was 14 years old. So
yeah, that's pretty crazy in Boone when you were talking about it. And also I remember the cheap Walmart cake.
Yes,
you will miss.
Yes, cheap Walmart cake. Yeah, you can get cake for like $1 or so from Walmart, and it's really so sugary and like bad for you, and you could taste it when you're eating it, but it's so good. Yeah, but I think the first thing I'll do when I get back is drive myself to a gas station, get a giant gas station coffee, and then go to like a Walmart or something just to walk around. Yeah. When you grow up in a small town, that's kind of what you do to entertain yourself. Is like go to the Walmart and walk around. I don't know.
And is there anything that you like here and you will miss back in the United States?
Oh yeah, definitely the public transportation. It's so nice. I think I'll miss the people that I've met, and yeah, I think I also will miss like the mentality that people have around work. In the United States, it's kind of the expectation that even if you're not at your job, you should be ready to do something for your job. So like if your boss emails you at 3:00 in the morning on a Sunday, the expectation is that you would be available to do something for them. Whereas Czechs, they're very much like, it's 4:00 on Friday, I'm done, you're not going to see me for the next 48 to 72 hours. And I think I will definitely miss that when I'm going back and finding a job in the United States.
Okay. And have you found your favorite place in Ostrava?
Yes, I love Kaminsky Park downtown by the new town hall. I run there a lot, and I just like walking around. It's very nice. And then I've also really enjoyed the 2 times I've gone to Lisa Ora and gone hiking there as well. But that's not technically in Ostrava, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if we go back to the topic of our school, how do you like our school?
I think it's really good. I think it's very interesting. It's a much smaller school than I know a lot of the other English teaching assistants are, so I teach younger students than most of my colleagues do. But I really enjoy that chance to get to interact with kids at different levels of English. And yeah, it's pretty fun. And you guys have a lot of activities always going on, so yeah very fun.
And did you have any prejudices about teaching at a Christian school that have been dispelled?
So I definitely did. I didn't really know what to expect in coming to a Christian school in the Czech Republic, because one of like the few facts I knew about the Czech Republic was that it had one of the highest levels of atheism in the world. So when they told me, oh, you're going to go teach at a Christian school, I said, oh, wait, what? That's not what I was expecting. And I don't personally have any experience going to a Christian school because I went to public school, like non-religious affiliated school for my entire life. So I didn't know a lot what to expect, but I definitely feared for the worst. I was worried that I would be going to mass every single week, or be required to follow like a strict code of conduct. My band instructor in high school, he had originally worked at the Catholic school in town, and he said that he had to like sign a code of conduct saying he wouldn't do X, Y, Z. So I definitely feared for the worst, but obviously those fears have not come to fruition. So yeah. been proved wrong.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
I really like to hear that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think most students that are not Christian and go to this school have the same exact fears. And then they're like, okay, well, it's not like that.
Yeah. And like, I definitely grew up around religious people, and I grew up going to church. But yeah, it wasn't something I'd done for a while. And like the examples that I had from my home life, not my home life, but like my growing up in a small town in Iowa was like also influencing what I was expecting. But I honestly think that people at this school are much more open-minded than people at like some other ETAs have told me about events or things that happen at their school. And I could never picture that happening here, because anytime I've brought it up to some of our students, they'll be like, no, that's completely gross and wrong for someone to think XYZ. So I think that people at this school, and partially because of the Christian background, have a much more open mind about like sensitive issues, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really like to hear that,
Yeah.
And on the other note, after school, what do you do in your free time?
Okay, so as some of you know, I run a lot.
Okay.
I've been training for a marathon that I'm going to run in April, hopefully, and then I might try and do the one in Prague in May as well. So I run a lot. I've started singing with a choir called the Ostrava Chorus or something of that kind. That happens at the VSB Economics faculty near Kaminsky Park. And yeah, I've also started playing American football, kind of. I'm very bad at it. But there's a women's flag football team in Peruba, so that's been an interesting experience.
Cool. Do you have any guilty pleasure? And if you do, what is it?
Oof, that is a tough question. Guilty pleasures. I don't know. I feel like I watch really cheesy, not really cheesy, but like really dumb sort of movies sometimes. Or like I'll read romance novels. I think that's something that might surprise people about me. Is that I've read more romance novels than I would care to admit. And then yeah, I have a pretty good knowledge of really cheesy Netflix movies. Like the new one with Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon. I definitely watched that the weekend it came out. So.
But you said you didn't like really Pride and Prejudice and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like those ones, the older period pieces, I have trouble with sometimes just because it's tough to stay with it because there's less action on it. Because like the newer rom-coms are like very silly and like weird stuff happens all the time. Like, oh no, they had a miscommunication on texting or whatever. I don't know.
There was only one bed.
Oh yes. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that though.
Yeah, yeah. But I've definitely watched a bunch of like Pride and Prejudices. My roommate in college really liked them, so yeah, she made sure I watched them.
And do you have any guilty pleasure in food? Like, is there something you really like?
I'd say whipped cream. I eat a lot of. It's such a thing in my family that when we have Thanksgiving and you normally put whipped cream on pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
Like people would bring whipped cream, but then they would bring an extra like container of it just for me to have. So yeah. I would get a piece of pie, but then I would also just get this container of whipped cream as well. So yeah.
And to change the topic, where would you like to go in the future?
Anywhere, everywhere. I'm not sure what my future plans are after this school year. I've been thinking about going and working in like a rural area, like a small town, and working with some law firms in like explaining legal rights to people. Or also I might go teach English in Massachusetts as like a literature teacher instead of an English as a second language teacher. So it'd be similar to like your Czech classes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you definitely plan to go back to US or stay in Europe for a bit?
I would enjoy staying in Europe. I applied to some grad schools in Europe. I applied to one in Norway because they didn't charge tuition for international students. But next year is the first year they're going to charge tuition. So unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to stay, but I would love to come back and live in Europe again because it's been quite nice. So.
Yeah, amazing.
And is there any place in America that you would recommend us to visit? And something that's not really well known among tourists?
Yeah, Iowa. I've got to say, you've got to come to Iowa. We have the National Czech and Slovak Museum in Cedar Rapids. So, yeah, I'll point it out on the shirt. It's right here, Iowa. You should come to Iowa. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do. But also, I'd say just the Midwest in general, I think is kind of underrated. Chicago is a beautiful city. Minneapolis is a nice city. In Minneapolis, there's like this giant shopping mall that's called the Mall of America. And at one point was the largest shopping mall in the world. And I was just telling some Secunda students about it this morning, but it has like a theme park in it, and people will literally just go to the Mall of America, and that's like their holiday. Is like, we did that a couple of times when I was younger, because it was only a couple of hours away. So you can go shopping, you can go to the theme park, you can eat some dinner. Pretty fun. And then the national parks are great. So out west, Rocky Mountains, Banff, no, that's Canada, Glacier National Park. So yeah, the national parks and the Midwest, definitely.
Yeah, amazing. And for the last question, what advice would you give to students when learning English?
You know more than you think you do. And don't be scared to talk to someone who's a native speaker. I think that's important for learning any foreign language. And I'm not going to judge you if you don't say it correctly, because language is quite fluid and things change all the time, and there is no one correct way to say something. There's always ways in which you can get around not knowing the right word, or anything. So don't be scared. Just give it a shot and talk as much as you can. And I guess there's a lot of movies that are fun on Netflix, so you can watch those as well. Yeah.
Cheesy rom-coms on Netflix.
Cheesy rom-coms on Netflix. That's
anything,
how you learn.
anything.
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Thank
very
you
fun.
for the interview.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's been a lovely time.
Happy birthday.